Greetings duplicant and welcome to the breach. Today's plan is I'm going to start on the kitchen and the non-self-powered oxygen maker. I've done a little work in the background, mainly digging out areas, and I've set up the initial temporary industrial area, as very soon I'll have a need for some refined metals more than just been available through digging out this lower biome. So you can see my plan for producing oxygen for my duplicants to breathe is to use the polluted water that releases polluted oxygen. I then use deodorizers to clean this oxygen up. The food poisoning is no longer able to survive in the clean air, and if I need to, I could always produce a room that's filled with chlorine and has some gas tanks in it which will clean the oxygen of any slime lung or food poisoning. I have automated the filling up of each level with water by using an automation system, so I don't fill the level up with more than 900 kilograms per tile of water. Using this automation means I don't have to babysit and keep an eye on how much water the levels are receiving. I've never produced oxygen in this way before, other than when I've cleaned out a slime biome, as in I've never produced oxygen like this for a long-term solution. But I just wanted to try something different from doing a half Rodriguez like I normally do for this kind of base. I'm not saying I won't do one later on if I need to supply oxygen to other asteroids, but I just want to find if this is a viable solution to the oxygen problem. There's going to be a balancing act between how much oxygen is produced, how much is used, and how quickly the oxygen goes past the deodorizers. Once it's gone past the deodorizers, how long it sticks around before it's pumped out of the building, because I need to know how long it takes for the food poisoning to disappear. This isn't a fully sustainable setup like a self-powered oxygen maker that takes its water directly from a vent, but it really is nice trying just something different for a change. The limit for this setup is the sand that the deodorizers use. But for now, let's just say this is all work in progress. A change of scenery, we're now going to set up the kitchen, or more importantly the freezer. Clay had changed some of the building rules and it's now slightly more difficult to produce a single square that is a vacuum. So now we have to produce the vacuum and then add in our cooling mechanism. What I'm going to do is fill in this level with tiles, make a liquid lock, and then dig out the tiles to create the vacuum that I need. The other method would be to block in the area, create a liquid lock, and then just manually pump out the air that's already in here. I just prefer this method. For larger areas and when I've got access to a large amount of power, I will just use pumps, but for a small area like this, and because I don't have the power set up, I just do it like this. Well, the ice would be nice for its cooling properties, but I'm going to choose the copper because that means I've got metal that I don't need to refine. Let's speed up this process slightly. We're going to add the grill in straight away because we want to be producing some barbecue because our farms are full at the moment and we need to exchange the hatches for stone hatches. We're going to set up the grill, we're going to pickle any meal lice, and we're going to cook fish and meat. It will be a while before the kitchen comes on full stream because we haven't even produced the evolution chamber and got the farms hooked up to the kitchen yet, so we'll have to sort out our power sooner rather than later. The oxygen pressure was dropping in the main area of my base, so I've turned the diffuser back on. Hopefully this is only a temporary solution as I bring my oxygen producer online and fine tune how much oxygen I need to be pumping out. It was this little pool of polluted water that I got from the outhouses at the start of the game that gave me the idea to produce the long beds of polluted water that would give me lots of oxygen. I've often had little pits like this at the start of the game from the outhouses, but I've never thought to upscale the process to see if it'll actually work. We're going to build a liquid lock here and continue to tile in the floor. Well, we have our liquid lock now, so we can destroy the tiles that we've already built to create the vacuum that we need to build the food freezer for long-term storage of the food, and so we don't have to worry about how much food we're actually producing as long as we're producing more than we need. Once I've got the kitchen set up, I think the next thing I need to do is sort out my wiring and powering the base. I'll be wanting to use natural gas as my primary source and have a coal backup. I also need to install some transformers and upgrade all my wiring to conductive wire. That's why I got the industrial setup, the temporary industrial setup, started even before I worked on the kitchen. Once I've upgraded the power supply, I can add automation to the farm and build the evolution chamber for the hatches. The added automation to the base will be a great boon for the duplicant because I only have 8, so there's a lot more pressure on each duplicant to do background tasks. All of that hard work so we can build a square in a vacuum and able to build a conveyor drop-off. As our cooling medium, we're obviously going to be using hydrogen, which I'll have to source at some point. As I'm sat here doing the voiceover, I'm looking at the materials I'm using to build this part of the kitchen. I'm thinking, why didn't I wait a few cycles and build it with steel? Steel would give me a lot better thermal conductivity and therefore mean that I could use less energy to produce the same amount of cooling. Here's me realising I'm not using the best material for the job. I should be using ceramic and not igneous rocks for these pipes. I could have also waited a cycle or two and built a thermal regulator out of steel as well. So back to our oxygen producer. At the moment the system is overpressurised at 3 kilograms of oxygen per square. So we've just started pumping out the gases into a separate area. This will eventually overpressurise the old slime biome and will be pumped into the base itself. We need to reduce the pressure in here to less than 1.8 kilograms per square. Once it's below this pressure, that means that the polluted water can off-gas. Each tile of polluted water has a 0.1% chance 4 times every second to release some polluted oxygen. So that's why I made the beds long and shallow, not deep. By pumping out the oxygen at the bottom, I'm going to create a lower pressure area and the polluted oxygen will flow towards this. Over the deodorizers where it will be cleaned. Then it's just a matter of time as we need the food poisoning germs time to die off. There's a good chance that I'll be moving the pump further to the right to give the oxygen more time to lose its food poisoning. So now we've got the oxygen maker working, we need to make sure that the outlet is working at full capacity as well. Let's hook up this gas storage to the main base. At the moment I have about 25 tons of algae in reserve, and there's a lot of biomes that I haven't opened up yet with algae in them. So even if this doesn't work out, I can fall back on using algae until I get a SPOM built. So I edited my video down and only ended up with 10 minutes. People do prefer longer ONI videos. I've done a second recording. So I'm going to upgrade the gold amalgam to steel like I said a few minutes ago. I'm going to get a lot of small tasks completed, like starting to upgrade the copper wire to conductive wire. Like one of the upgrades we're going to do is going to add more gas generators to our setup. We're going to hook it all up to the same smart battery, but we're going to add a transformer and then plug into the grid via this transformer to stop any damage to the wiring. I was living a bit dangerously with my present setup. I have approximately 170 tons of sand in reserve at the moment, but even so I've still got a lot of deodorizers I'll no longer need, and I should be able to remove those over the next episode and reclaim some of the copper. Mainly because my industrial setup is only temporary and I don't have a good waste heat management system set up either. The less conductive wire I need to build at the moment, the better. I also have about 100 units of reed fibre stored up as well, so I may be able to remove that farm above my gas generators as they're surplus to requirements now. I'll be able to make all my duplicants an atmospheric suit and have plenty to repair these suits, and when I have a good decorator, produce some paintings. At the moment I have the base powered by a hamster wheel, a lot of the oxygen deodorizers powered by the natural gas generator setup and a lot of the pumps, and I have my industrial setup powered purely by coal at the moment, which I'll sort out at a later date I think. I can see the next episode being involved digging out a lot of areas, probably building atmospheric suit docks, wiring some hydrogen for my freezer section. Oh, and I can't forget the bleach stone either. Finding the duplicant transporters and the 2 matter transporters all ready to go to the new asteroid. Because I'm going to need some cooling solutions. And for that I need petroleum, and to get petroleum I need to find crude oil, which is on the other asteroid. We'll build the exhausts for the natural gas generators and hook the generators into the natural gas supply. Well, that's my natural gas power generation setup upgraded. We'll start upgrading the copper wire to conductive wire. We'll get the food to sit on a steel tile. You turn your back for a few minutes and something goes wrong. I seem to have polluted water everywhere, and it took me about 30 seconds to realise what had happened. I have the automated hydro sensors set to 1 kilogram. There's a minimum packet size that the valve will dispense, which takes the tile to over 1 kilogram. That means it goes up a level, overspills and creates a huge mess on the floor. I now have polluted water off-gassing in an area that I really don't want it to be off-gassing into. It's a simple fix, a few mopping commands and sweep commands will sort this out. Well, I'll be pumping a small amount of polluted oxygen into the base, but I think it's such a small amount it won't affect my duplicants up there too much and give them any diseases. And I honestly can't blame the duplicants for this muck up either. This one's all on me. I'll have to wait until the next episode to find out whether this small oxygen producer is big enough for my 8 duplicants. But that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you on the other side.